doing blood work, I think, is absolutely warranted to have a baseline as early as possible where it's, your peak hormone output, 21, 25 years old, chlorine in your fucking shower is killing your test.
Let's say someone's listening and they go, this Brian guy doesn't seem like my bag. Don't want to take an ass full of steroids. I want to get myself to as healthy a level of testosterone naturally using lifestyle, a diet, and maybe non-clinical supplementation as I can. What's the prescription? This is not medical advice.
Oh my God, dude. That's so general. I could
What would you do if you were to say,
I would be like,
what are the principles that people should follow?
I would say getting to bed at the same time every night, ideally, and waking up at the same time every morning, following your circadian rhythm. As it starts to get dark, you start to wind down, you get to bed at an adequate time, hopefully around, depending on where you live, your schedule, etc. But ideally no later than like 11 or 12. Getting up as the sun's coming up. It's not always going to be, perfect like that. But I mean, just following your circadian rhythm in general very, very much aligns with the diurnal rhythm that your like pulsatile secretion of hormones would follow. And when you start to manipulate that in like an artificial way and trying to, putting yourself in situations that are not conducive to high quality sleep, it's, bright outside and you're trying to go to bed or whatever, you don't have blackout blinds. Like there are ways to try and hack it. But at the end of the day, I think that even when I track my sleep metrics, when I go to bed at 10 p.m. versus 2 a.m., like it's a dramatic difference in terms of quality, I feel like, in general. And I don't think anyone actually has a full, clear answer on that, by the way, because I've asked guys like Huberman and stuff about if I go to bed at 2 a.m., but I sleep 8 hours and I have blackout blinds and I optimize everything, could I get the same health outcomes as if I was, a dialed in like 9:30 p.m. Your body's pretty intuitive, and oftentimes I think it knows better than you do. Like when people try and hack their body, sometimes they're fighting against something that is not leading to an optimal outcome when they could have otherwise just been following the common principles of go to bed at a good time, after the sun goes down, get up at the same time every morning, sort of following, the normal circadian rhythm that a human should follow. I'm not saying you have to do it, but that's what I would generally recommend.
Okay, that's sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep is sorted. What else is someone doing? Optimal testosterone, naturally.
A good proportion of like not depriving yourself entirely of fats in your diet, because some people will very much, especially in the fitness space, will go protein, carbs. They very much want to try and hit their body weight in protein. And then they'll have carbs, but then they will neglect fat content, which can be detrimental to testosterone. And that's often overlooked. Even when people are eating adequate calories, they are sometimes depriving themselves of basic things like one macronutrient entirely or micronutrient density. Like one of the things I do is I plug my diet into this thing called Chronometer. It's kind of like MyFitnessPal, but it's more comprehensive in that it breaks down all of the micronutrients and minerals of your foods. So it shows what vitamins and minerals you're deficient in of your diet model. And then you can then backfill accordingly based on what you're deficient in.
Wow.
So that is typically what I would recommend too, because if you don't have the cofactors and substrate to actually produce the hormones, even if you're eating what you consider to be a good diet, it might be deficient in adequate zinc, or it might be deficient in adequate bioavailable B vitamins or whatever. Like it would be worthwhile to kind of at least one time, like flesh out, if you follow a consistent diet, what does that yield in terms of all of the vitamins and minerals? And is that satisfactory for optimal hormone output? And that's where you can then determine like actual targeted supplementation. Because oftentimes people are blindly taking shit like, oh, I think I need zinc, so I'll just take this.
Like compensating for malnutrition in one form or another with supplementation.
If you need to. Like obviously food, whole foods is in general, I would say, going to be better. But it depends, because some people don't want to eat more. Some people have goals that are, body fat related, and they want to maybe even restrict calories. And at that point, you might be cutting something out that was hitting your micronutrient allotment for some specific thing. And that's where you would then supplement potentially.
So there is a like a tension between calories in and the micronutrients, that you begin to cut calories to the point where you can't eat enough to be able to get the micronutrients in.
Depending on what your goals are. Because again, some people don't care about getting as lean as you, for example.
Come on. Okay, so we've got food, we've got sleep. What else? What else is in there as the big movers for testosterone production?
Like as far as environmental stressors and whatnot, it's hard for me to quantify, like, oh, the chlorine in your fucking shower is killing your test. Like, I don't know for sure, but I would probably hedge against.
Have you got a special filter in your shower? Do you?
Yeah.
What brand is it? Do you know?
I don't know, dude.
But you can just search like chlorine filter, shower head chlorine filter or something, or is this?
Yeah, probably. Like you could probably vet out a good one with a little bit of research.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rely on me for that. I don't even know if mine's the best one, but I remember when I was looking for it, it seemed to be like I would very much do a lot of the same research as other people are thinking. Like, okay, YouTube, who do I trust in the industry that otherwise has made videos on this content? And obviously stuff can be manipulated. You can't ever fully trust anything, I guess. But I mean, you just do your due diligence and try and do what you can. What else? Cooking in like plastics I think is something that could be impactful.
Cooking in plastics?
Not cooking, like heating stuff up and like storing stuff in plastics, drinking out of plastic bottles, not ideal.
Yeah. Okay. We are killing ourselves.
I'm traveling. Yeah. I would normally have a glass bottle, but
yeah. One thing that I found is a really nice solution for that. A bunch of different companies make glass Tupperware, plastic lid, glass sides, which I'm going to guess is mostly okay because the food's not going to be touching the top.
Yeah, all my prep meals are in glass containers.
Really nice, super easy to clean, don't smell as much. If you do end up leaving it for a few days, you don't feel like, oh God, it's infused into the container now and I've permanently got this sort of moldy residue that's going to be in there.
Yeah.
Steel shakers for using protein and whatnot.
If you actually wanted to adequately assess the impact of these things, though, like, again, how impactful are they at the end of the day? Like, even things like your lifestyle, your exercise regimen, all super impactful above and beyond the sleep, the diet, the exposure to all these toxins, etc. Doing blood work, I think, is absolutely warranted to have a baseline as early as possible where it's, your peak hormone output, 21, 25 years old, have some sort of baseline profile that is comprehensive. So then if something goes awry, you can then go back and identify where there are deficiencies, imbalances, et cetera, what went wrong and why. So some of these exposures to whatever it is that's detrimental to testosterone or lackluster, fill in the blank, if you change that, you could then get blood work done to assess, is my gonadotropin output now sufficient compared to before if it was suboptimal? And you can see pretty clearly, like, rather than being speculative about, does this help? Maybe I should totally change this area of my life because it might be suboptimal. Like, there are some things that might be, you don't want to do, that you think are going to be conducive to better hormones, and maybe it has no impact whatsoever. And at that point, you could go get a basic testosterone test.